What's up, guys? It's your man Donovan Sharp, and welcome to this edition of The Sharp Reality. Follow me on Twitter at Donovan_Sharp. Be sure to check out thesharpreality.com anytime for all podcast episodes and additional content. TSR can also be found on iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud, and if you want to support the show, do your Amazon shopping through our affiliate link on the right-hand side of our homepage. I have said before that women cheat in the margins. In other words, women cheat during times where you would least expect them to. So, for example, if she tells you she's just going to run to the store to pick up some bread, eggs, milk, and cheese, she'll use that opportunity to go over to somebody's house, get fucked for 20-30 minutes, and then come back. And then when you ask her what took so long, she can tell you, well, the line was long, or the traffic was bad, or I decided to go to another grocery store on the other side of town. Women also like to stay in the margins. In other words, she'll never text the guy she's fucking on the side through her phone. She does it through maybe a texting app, or she'll do it on Twitter. She'll do it on her computer. She'll do it on her tablet. Basically, she will use communication. She'll use communication methods that cannot be traced or can't be tracked. That she can easily erase those tracks. There are many, many other examples of this, but women these days have become experts in cheating in the margins. Now, what they're doing, they seem to have evolved even more, because now what they are doing is they are setting up their infidelity. In other words, they have started to preemptively explain future unexplained absences. And the reason they do this is so you can't put their feet to the fire. Like the example that I just gave. This is just an example. If she says, well, look, when I go to the grocery store, I take a long time. So if she tells you I'm going to the grocery store to get some bottled water, and she takes an hour and a half, she thinks her ass is covered, because the hour and a half that she was doing whatever it is she was doing, that's off the table, because she's beaten you to the punch when she says, well, I told you that when I go to the grocery store, I tend to take a long time. That's just an example, and obviously that's something that nobody would believe, but you'd be surprised at what women are getting away with these days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a few examples of how women set up or prepare you for future infidelity. This is one of the examples that I have personal experience with, that I will share with you guys, and I also have friends or people that I've known who have experienced some of these things as well. I usually like to give you guys personal anecdotes, so you guys know I'm not just feeding you a line of bullshit on what I heard or theories or anything like that. This podcast is called The Sharp Reality, meaning I have experienced and seen this stuff with my own two eyes. But this is one of the very few times where I'll bring in other examples that I've heard from people that I trust and care about as it pertains to this particular podcast episode. So let's go ahead and get to it. The number one, she never gives you her exact schedule. What I mean by this is most women work. Every woman has to work. And what she will do, a lot of times what women will do is they won't tell you when they start work or when they get off. Her schedule is always changing, or she's on call. She doesn't give you exact times. The reason she does this, of course, is because she doesn't want to explain unexplained absences. So if she disappears for 5 or 6 hours and you say, well, look, where the fuck have you been for the last 5 or 6 hours? Oh, they called me into work and we're not allowed to have our phones at work and I just got off. And listen, this may or may not be true, but she knows that she has now set a precedent. If you buy and show that that's okay with you, if you show her that it's okay for her to be vague about her work schedule, if you show her that it's all right for her to not give you exact times, exact days, etc., she will use this eventually to cheat on you. So if she decides that she wants to cheat, she knows she has this excuse in her hip pocket. The occupations that are easiest for women to pull this off on are, for example, if she's a waitress, or if she works at a department store, or if she works in retail, if she works in a kitchen. Basically, guys, any job that isn't a 9 to 5, she can easily be vague about her schedule, which she will eventually use to cheat on you without having to explain where she was or what she was doing. They'll also use this particular strategy by telling you that they volunteer at soup kitchens, they volunteer at homeless shelters or hospitals. Anything they can think of where there is seemingly a legitimate reason why they don't have their phones on them for an extended period of time. The second way women like to preemptively set up the conditions for infidelity is she will tell you that her friend or her relative is sick or going through a hard time. What women like to do is she'll tell you that her friend or relative has cancer, or has some sort of terminal disease, some sort of sickness. Another way they do this is that they'll say that they have an old relative who lives nearby and requires round the clock care. My grandmother lives on the other side of town. She's 98 years old, and she needs 24 hour round the clock care, so I go over there every day to check on my grandmother. Again, that may or may not be true, but she will use that reason for an unexplained absence. So if she disappears for 2.5 hours, you ask, well, where have you been? Oh, well, I had to run over to my grandma's house because the nurse was late, or whatever bullshit excuse she decides to give you. Another variation of this particular strategy is they'll say that my friend is going through a divorce or a bad breakup. So that it's almost like it's a continuous reason to disappear at the drop of a hat at any time. My friend is going through a divorce. So basically, she can disappear without a trace, even if she's with you. She can get a text and say, "Oh, my uncle is in the hospital again," or "Oh, my friend's future ex-husband is trying to take the kids and she needs moral support." Again, they'll make up sicknesses as well. My friend just got diagnosed with bipolar, so she gets that text. Oh, my friend is talking about suicide, and I heard in a class that you always have to take every declaration of suicide seriously, so I gotta go. She's gone for 3 hours, and she's getting fucked in the ass by the guy she's fucking behind her back. A friend of mine in Vegas actually had his girlfriend do this to him. As a matter of fact, this friend is my friend, quote, Norm. And I referred to Norm when I wrote an article. I wrote an article on Return of Kings a couple of summers back in the summer of 15, on how there was a weekend that we had in Vegas, and I used that weekend to sort of encapsulate a lot of red pill truths that sort of stuck out to me. And my friend Norm was a part of that weekend. Well, this guy, Norm, my friend, his girlfriend told him that her grandmother was close to death. Okay? Same thing. My grandmother's close to death. She's shitting herself. She needs somebody to feed her, bathe her, etc., etc. Well, she cheated on him during the time she was, quote, with her grandmother. Yes, her grandmother was sick, and yes, she needed 24/7 round-the-clock care. But Norm's girlfriend used this reason to explain her unexplained absence. And it wasn't until he actually got in his car and followed her. He followed her all the way to the guy's house that she was fucking. She didn't make any attempt to try to hide it because, of course, Norm never questioned her about it. He never quizzed her about it. He never required proof. He never went over and met the grandmother. Yeah, she sent him pictures, but she used this excuse to go over and fuck the guy that she was fucking. At that point, she just used it to cheat on him. This is how women work. The third way that women like to set up or preemptively set up infidelity is that they tell you they are a part of something where they can't access their phones. This is always 100% bullshit. Girls always have access to their phones, even at work or in class when people say that they're not supposed to. Girls text on their phones when they're driving 70 miles an hour down the highway. They always have their phones. So what they'll do is they'll make up activities where they can't. Where they tell you that they don't have access to their phones. Like they'll tell you, I take a yoga class, I take a spitting class, I take a pottery class, I take cooking classes in the evening. What most of these have in common, guys, is that it's usually an activity that generally requires both of their hands. their undivided attention and happens in the evening or at night. So if she tells you she has a hobby that requires both hands, that requires their undivided attention, because you can't half-ass a pottery class, you can't half-ass a cooking class, you can't half-ass a spinning class, you have to be paying full attention to get the most out of this stuff. And if it happens during the evening, those three qualifications, be on the lookout, because she might be setting up infidelity. Oh, I have a pottery class from 7 to 10 every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night. So, no, I'm not going to, what do you want me to do? Text you or call you with my muddy, clay-soaked hands? Like, I can't do that. I'm going to be gone for 3 hours. Well, guess what? She's using those 3 hours to get fucked 6 ways from Sunday by the guy she's fucking around you with. This particular thing happened to me many, many moons ago. I was 20 years old, and I was fucking this chick who lived in the town that she went to college in. So of course there's a red flag there. Well, I used to go and see her, I think like twice a week or whatever. It was maybe a 2-hour drive. And then the summertime hit, so now she's out of school, and she decided to get an apartment with a couple of her friends from school. So anyway, she told me that she had gotten a part in the play The Sound of Music. So she had play practice, I think, for 2 or 3 hours every night. I didn't think anything of it, guys. Listen, she has play practice. She told me that she was in theater, etc., etc. She even made the mistake of telling me where the play practice was. Like, she had this lie completely prepared, not thinking that I would actually try to come and see her play practice. Well, one night I decided, you know what, I'm going to surprise her at play practice. I'm going to tell her she did well. Well, I drove over to this, I think it was maybe an amphitheater or a theater that they were supposedly having practice in. And it was an abandoned theater. Like, no one had been in there for years. And so I drove to her apartment where she was living, and sure enough, she was there with another guy. Again, her excuse, her reason met all of the qualifications. It was an activity that required, it was an activity that didn't necessarily require both hands, but it required undivided attention. You can't be on stage with your phone if you're in play practice, and it happened in the evening or at night. She used that opportunity to cheat on me, and that's how that happened. The fourth way that women like to preemptively set up their slutty behavior for the future is they make up habits or medical conditions that they do not actually have. Women will say things like, I sleep a lot, or I take a lot of naps, and I have another personal story about that. They'll tell you, I get migraine headaches. This explains, again, any unexplained absences. So they can say, well, I fell asleep, or I couldn't look at my phone because I had a migraine headache. I have to stay from the light. A buddy of mine told me that his girlfriend had carpal tunnel, and that was the reason she didn't text him as much. Now, I never found out if she cheated on him or not, but she was in her early 20s, and for whatever reason, her carpal tunnel never seemed to flare up when we were around. It's just to me, that was just kind of weird. Some girls will tell you, I like to meditate for 3-4 hours a day, and guys are actually buying into this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, my girlfriend is in tune with herself. She is a down-to-earth girl. She meditates every night between 6 and 9 p.m. No, dude, she's not she's meditating all right. She's meditating with a cock in her ass. That's how the meditation is. Here's another one I've heard before. I've had friends tell me that their girlfriends like to get off the grid. This guy wasn't really a friend of mine. He was sort of a friend of a friend, but I remember we were all sitting around drinking beers. He's like, yeah, my girlfriend is totally cool. She doesn't like all this social media stuff. Like, every day for like 2-3 hours, she likes to get off the grid. She turns off her phone, turns off her computer, and she just kind of lets herself go. And this is post-Red Pill Renaissance, and I'm thinking, dude, your girl is fucking 6 guys behind your back and giving you the excuse that she likes to get off the grid. She's not getting off the grid. She's getting off the grid with you. So the story that I want to tell you about this particular incident is, I started fucking a girl, and we were nothing more than fuck buddies. And so in the beginning, when we first started fucking, she told me, she's like, yeah, I'm sort of the, I don't think she called it narcolepsy, but she told me that she liked to sleep and liked to take random naps throughout the day. And even though she never did that when I was with her, even when we were just kind of sitting around watching TV or doing nothing, she never just randomly fell asleep like she told me. Never thought anything of it. So one afternoon, I fucked her. and I left my house to go home. Well, on my way home, she's texting me. She's like, hey, shoot me a text when you get home. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I'm thinking maybe she wants to talk. She doesn't want me talking on the phone while I'm driving. Cool, whatever. All right, cool. She texts me again before I'm home. Are you home yet? And I'm thinking to myself, dude, no, I'm not home yet. Like, relax. And so I get home and I texted her. I said, I'm home. I didn't hear back from her. And I texted her, I said, look, I'm home. Is everything okay? I called her phone, straight to voicemail. This is 4:30 in the afternoon. So immediately my antennas go up and I'm thinking, okay, what the fuck is going on here? So I jump in my car, I ride over to her house, and now there's a red truck in her driveway. So it was obvious that she wanted to make sure I was home so that she could fuck whatever dude she had next in line. Again, now here's the thing, here's how this happened. I told her, I said, I rode by her house after I left her house today, and there was a red truck. So yeah, like, we're done. Like, it's over with. As a rule, anytime you're in a fuck buddy relationship with a woman, one of the non-spoken understood rules is, look, we both know we're fucking other people. Let's just not make it obvious. Let's not put it in each other's faces, because there is a little bit. Listen, man, we can say all we want. I don't care if a girl was fucking 5 guys at a time. Doesn't matter. No. Like, it's not that your territorial instinct ever kicks in for sluts, but by the same token, you don't want to know. You just don't want to know. Because guess what? I could be the guy. I guarantee you that the guy in the red truck didn't know I was at her house just an hour ago, fucking the dog shit out of her. He has no idea. So that excuse that particular girl used was, I like to sleep a lot. And so when I confronted her about it, actually, I did it like this. I said, yeah, what happened to you earlier? She's like, oh, I fell asleep and took a nap. I said, I guess whoever was there with the red truck helped you sleep. And I put sleep in quotes. And she didn't respond. And at that point, I just texted her. I said, look, it's been fun. It's over, blah, 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 blah. And that was that. At the end of the day, guys, the things that a woman tells you that I've pointed out here, that act as sort of a preemptive strike on unexplained absences, they may be true and they might not be. Even if they're true 100% of the time, if a woman knows that she can get away with disappearing for hours at a time, and that you buy her explanation every single time, or in other words, if a woman knows that if you ask her, hey, where were you? Oh, I was at my grandmother's house, or oh, I fell asleep, then that may be true. You might be dating a girl who has a sleep disorder, just randomly falls asleep. You might be dating a girl who's on call. You might be fucking a girl who has a random schedule. You might be fucking a girl who has play practice or does yoga, whatever the case may be. But understand this, guys. When a woman decides to cheat, she is going to cheat. And she's going to do it in the margins. She's going to do it during the time that she told you she was doing something else. And rather than doing it right then and there, girls have stepped up their game and they have started beating us to the punch. They don't want to have to explain, oh, I decided to volunteer at the hospital today. No, what they'll do is in the beginning of the relationship, hey, by the way, I volunteer at the hospital every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday between the hours of 2 and 4, and we can't have our phones. Well, between the hours of 2 and 4 on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, she's fucking her other boyfriend who thinks that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday she's volunteering at the soup kitchen between 6 and 9. That's how that works. This is how girls are. Either way, whether it's true or not, girls use this stuff to explain unexplained absences, and they're doing this up front to avoid questions about it later. She can tell you, she can tell you things like, I told you my aunt had brain cancer, when you quiz her about where she was for the last 3 hours on Friday night. If you hear these things, if you get the idea that your girl might not be doing the things that she says she's doing, don't jump to conclusions. She may very well be telling you the truth. But as a man with red pill knowledge, if you pay attention, if you read between the lines, keep fucking her, just make sure you proceed with caution. And if you find out that she doesn't really take a pottery class, or that she doesn't have a sick uncle, or that her friend isn't really going through a divorce, keep fucking her, but at that point, don't make her your main chick, because chances are she's fucking somebody else during the time she goes radio silent on you. This is what all girls do. That does it for this episode of The Sharp Reality. You can follow me on Twitter at Donovan_Sharp. Visit thesharpreality.com anytime to listen to all podcast episodes and access additional content. And don't forget to bookmark our Amazon affiliate link in the sidebar of our homepage. Thanks for listening.